Personally, I wasn't familiar with it. I know that in some countries in the 80s and 90s, there was a television series, right, made out of it.
Nenhum homem vai ser capaz de detê-lo.
Fanka, hi Nick, hi Diego. How are you guys?
What's going on, my friend? How are you?
Well,
I'm great. Thank you for having me. Knights of the Zodíaco has become such a huge pop phenomenon here in Brazil in the 90s and helped to introduce anime to our culture. So how challenged and how excited for you guys was to star in the first live action of such iconic IP?
I wasn't familiar, personally, I wasn't familiar with it. I know that in some countries in the 80s and 90s, there was a television series, right, made out of it. And then obviously it's based on the manga and anime and all of it. But now, having discovered this universe, these are interesting characters.
yeah, once we got involved in it, we started to realize what a big world it was and what kind of fan base this had, you know. So because all three of us were sort of hadn't heard of the anime before, so we started to invest in it once we got hooked into the project. So
Yeah, when I told my family about it back in Ecuador and Mexico, they were like, ¿En serio? ¿Vas a jugar el Phoenix Knight? No manches, ¿en serio? And I'm like, yeah, I mean, is that a big deal? And they're like, that's the biggest deal. Like, that's arguably one of the greatest animes ever created. So, yeah, we're aware now of the grand impact that it has.
Eu tive uma visão. Pessoas queimando. Tava tudo destruído. Era a Athena, ela que fez isso.
And can you guys tell us a little bit about your characters?
I played Gurad, and Gurad is a conflicted, I would say, character. She has these bionic-looking arms. They were blown off by her lovely adopted daughter, when the daughter was very young, and she allegedly is the reincarnation of Athena. And so once this major accident happens, the character realizes that she has to stop the world from evil, because once Athena is, a woman, what destruction could she cause? And so her main mission then becomes to try to protect the rest of the world, is what she thinks, but obviously with a big conflict, the biggest conflict one can possibly have, of going after your own, whether adopted daughter, but daughter. And she also has these arms that are now completely dependent on something called Cosmos. So other people basically need to die for her to stay alive to feed her, arms. And then she has this entire army of Black Knights and people, and they can talk about, the fighting ring that she runs and all of it.
Eu preciso nos salvar dela.
yeah, I had a fun task of just, how can I make this guy as hateable as possible, and knew that he was, the big bad, villain, coming after Seiya and seeking revenge on him, and and so it was fun for me just to change physically and just sort of get as wild with this character as I could. So
Yeah, for me, Nero, or Iki, as you probably know, right? His original name. Nero is a very committed and dedicated and really just deviously intelligent, right? Nobody knows his motives. Nobody knows what he's actually after except for him. And I think in the third act of this film, we're really going to see how dirty Nero is willing to play to get what he wants. And yeah, I mean, that's my favorite part of the film, the third act. But the whole thing is just such a blast.
Acho bom você colocar o cinto.